Okay, chapter 10, we're going to talk about bonds, bond pricing, bond yields, and I'm going to show you a couple different things in Excel as far as how to calculate the price of bonds using a price function, using a present value function, and those kinds of things. So, okay, first thing, a bond is security that obligates the issuer to make payments to the holder over time. Generally speaking, a bond works that you would have face value, and the face value or the par value is the payment that is at the maturity of the bond. So if I had a $1,000 bond, whatever the term of that bond was, I would pay $1,000 at the end of it. The coupon rate is also known as the interest rate, and that is the interest rate based on the par value of the bond. So again, if I had a $1,000 bond and it had a 10% interest rate, then I would pay $100 a year to that bondholder. The coupon rate was called that because when bonds kind of first started, they actually had physical coupons that were perforated on the outside, and you would turn them in and get paid your interest payment to show that you were legally do that. Obviously, this day and age, that's not necessarily how that works anymore because we do it all electronically, but that's where the term coupon rate comes from. It's the interest rate. Zero coupon bond pays no coupons, usually sells at a discount and provides only the payment of par value maturity. So that $1,000 bond I talked about earlier would only pay $1,000 at the end and not pay the interest up front or interest during the time frame of the bond. Okay, so prices and yields of U.S. Treasury bonds. So when you see the pricing here, the bids and the ask, you see they're all kind of roughly 100. What those are is they don't show it this way, but effectively they're percentages. So like a bid here of 102.5 really equates to 102.5% of the par value or face value of the bond. So again, at my $1,000 bond I gave an example of, this would be $1,020. The bid price here would be $1,025. Same thing going the other direction, is out of 100, or like it's 100%. So if my $1,000 bond, if it were this one here, the November 15th bond, it would be $970.94 would be the bid price here. So Treasury bonds and notes, they accrue interest and are quoted and quoted bond prices. The quoted prices do not include interest accruing between payments. So the quoted price doesn't include the fact that if you're selling it in between the time frame that the payments actually happen, then there could be some accrued interest, some interest owed to the prior owner, or if you're the one selling it, the interest owed to you. Generally speaking, bonds are paid what we call semi-annually. So that would mean that it is paid twice a year. Most bonds are that way, where they're paid every 6 months. So how we would calculate the accrued interest is what we show here. We've got the annual coupon payment divided by 2 times the days since last coupon payment, and then the days separating the coupon payment. So I'll calculate the example they have here. So consider a bond with the following characteristics: a semi-annual payment, a coupon rate of 6%, $1,000 par value. If 45 days have passed since the last coupon, what is the accrued interest? So to find that, we would take the par value, 1,000, the coupon rate of 6%, which would be an interest rate, an annual interest rate, coupon rate of 6%. That's for the year, okay, and it pays, if I remember correctly here, it pays semi-annually. So, oops, now it gave me the answer, but I'll show you how to calculate it anyways. So it pays semi-annually, so it pays twice a year. So the annual payment would be just 1,000 times the 6%. The semi-annual payment, since it's every 6 months, would simply be paid, or pay half of that. So that divided by 2. And that's really what that first part of the, it's really what the first part of this function is here, annual coupon payment divided by 2. So there's where I'm at. It's a semi-annual payment. Then number of days you're going to accrue, and then the number of days between interest payments. If you really think about what you're doing here, you're just figuring out, okay, how much of the next window between interest payments, how much of this $30 have I already earned? So 45 days is the accrual amount. It's half of 365 to 6 months. They rounded it here to 182. So 182 and a half is technically, technically half of the time. They rounded it for their calculation to 182 days. So you should be able to take $30, the semi-annual payment, times 45 days divided by 182 days. That gets me 7.417. So that would be the accrued interest on this bond. And so you see that's the same thing that they got, $7.42. So the other thing you can do if you set something up like this, which might be nice for your homework, is, these are all calculated fields, accrued interest. So something I do in Excel all the time is I build calculators like this so that I can use them for other problems. So like this one right here, if I only use or only type in information for the yellow ones I just highlighted, then it'll calculate the accrued interest no matter what the amount is. So let's say it's a $10,000 par value. I'm sorry, that's $100,000 par value, that's fine. At a rate of 8%, and we accrued 90 days out of 182. My interest accrual would be 1978.02. So all I need to change is these 4 variables, and I could calculate any accrued interest for the bonds. Okay, moving on. So this is just a listing of different corporate bonds. It gives you the coupon rate, tells you when the maturity is, how long it is. A lot of times they're very long term. This Moody's S&P is their credit rating. Businesses, just like individuals, have credit scores. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But obviously, the higher their credit score, the lower the risk. The lower their credit score, the higher the risk. And notice that over here, when you look at the relationship between the coupon rate and the asking, if you look at the difference between that and the asking prices for it, you see that the higher the interest rate, the higher the price. And you can always kind of tell right about where the going rate is by what, if you have any of them that are exactly 100, that's pretty close to the going rate, what we would call the market rate of interest, given the Moody's S&P as well and the length of time. Okay. Corporate bonds. Okay, corporate bonds. There's call provisions on corporate bonds. There are the call provisions on a corporate bonds means that a callable bond is one that they can company can offer to buy at any given time. So if you invest in a bond and it's a 20-year bond, you'd expect to get paid for the next 20 years. But if it's a callable bond, then the company has the right to call that bond at a given time. If they choose to do so, that means that they can pay you the money they owe you now rather than in the future and call the bond and pay you off. The convertible bond allows bondholders to exchange bond for a specific number of common stock shares. Okay, so this is a conversion. So you take your bond and you convert it into owning part of the company. A puttable bond is a bond that the holder may choose to exchange for par value or to extend for a given number of years. So they can exchange it for par value if they choose to, or they can extend the amount of the bond. Floating rate bond, the coupon rate periodically resets according to the specific market date. So this would, if a coupon rate, I mean, obviously there's time frames that are involved here. Generally speaking, floating rate bond should be priced close to right at 100 because the rate should float with what the market says. Preferred stock. Preferred stock is a type of stock that usually pays dividends. They commonly pay a fixed dividend. Oftentimes, they actually accrue dividends too, if it's what's called cumulative preferred stock. So a floating rate preferred stock is becoming more and more popular because floating rate by definition changes with what the interest rates are. Dividends themselves from corporations are not normally tax deductible for the corporation. So the corporation pays out that money, but there is no deduction, whereas interest on bonds are, which is one of the reasons why bonds can be more popular because interest expense is deductible for tax purposes, but dividends are not. Other people that can issue bonds, state and local governments, municipal bonds, those are oftentimes not taxable to local. Or actually, yeah, it depends, the local or federal level, depending on what they are. Federal Home Loan Bank Board, Farm Credit Agencies, Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. International bonds are foreign bonds issued by a borrower in a different country, other than where the bond is sold, denominated in the currency of the market country. So if it was in, you know, a European country that was per the European Union, it'd be in euros. If it's in Great Britain, it'd be in British pounds, so on. Euro bonds are denominated in currency, usually that of the issuing country as well, different than that of the market. Innovation bond market, inverse floaters. It's a coupon rate falls when interest rate rise. So this one does the opposite. So you'd buy these if you're betting on the interest rates to go down, because then your coupon rate should go up. So it's inversely related with interest rates. And asset-backed bonds are income from specified assets used to service debt. A pay-in-kind bond, the issuer can pay interest in cash or additional bonds. Then a catastrophe bond, the higher coupon rates for investors for taking on a risk. Okay. Innovation in the bond market. Index bonds. Index bonds are payments tied generally to price or index price of a particular commodity. So this would be like if it was a commodity like wheat or oil or gas. Treasury inflation protected securities, or the par value of the bond increases with the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. Okay, and then we have a couple more calculations here as far as what the nominal return is versus what the real return is. The nominal return would take the interest plus the price appreciation if there is any. So that would be, you know, back when we looked at the pricing of bonds where I said it's equal to 100. If your price went from 100 to 105, that's price appreciation. The interest is the actual interest payment that you're receiving, and then we divide that by the initial price to see what your nominal return is. The real return, we take 1 plus the nominal return divided by 1 plus the inflation, and then we would subtract 1. And I'm gonna stop that video for now there. Hello? What's up?